introduced to my husband, Jenny, by Aaron Burr, who himself wanted to be a suitor. But I quickly saw the writing on the wall. I knew I loved my Jenny best. After other introductions, James asked me to hostess events for him, which I did. Now, at first, I might not have been attracted to his sickly nature or his withdrawn manner, but his mind, bordering on genius, now that was very attractive to me. He had a shiny brilliance to him, though some might have said he was scrawny and charmless. To me, he was the love of my life. And when he became Secretary of State in 1801, I knew exactly what to do for him, since my aptitude had become that of hostess and social choreographer. Sure, marriage is a fine thing, it's so common grown. Fa la la, la la la, fa la 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 la. It is a bait which all do swallow glibly down. Fa la la, la la la, fa la 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 la. To answer expectations of joys it should dispense, to recompense the fools it makes, charming every sense. La la la, la la la, la 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 la. I was born a Quaker in Ashland, Virginia, and my family was against the war. No one in my family ever participated in the Revolutionary War, which sort of made us black sheep. And when my father's conscience about slavery began causing him sleepless nights, he up and sold our slaves, moved us to Philadelphia. The move caused us bankruptcy and led to more and more financial humiliation. The Quakers do not stand for any financial ruination. And when they denounced him for it, he lost his faith, leading to a slow death 3 years later. But I had already met my mate, John Todd Jr., also a Quaker with a law office, and we lived quite well with our 2 children in the elite Philadelphia environs. My life at the time seemed idyllic until the yellow fever struck. And death was everywhere. House after house, families were dying. People were leaving Philadelphia in droves, taking whatever they could carry and escaping as fast as horse and buggy allowed. But we, the Todds, we stayed to help. 3 of us became affected with the disease. My son, William, and my husband, John, died. Well, I lingered on. Eventually, God granted me life. My remaining son, John, and I lived off of my husband's remaining wealth, and I soon met many young men trying to give me financial advice. I will say, some of it was good. Some of it was bad. One such advisor and admirer was Aaron Burr. Oh, a charming fellow, but once I had become familiarized with Mr. James Madison, all other admirers were out the window. I did continue my friendships, however, with both Burr and Jefferson, and I made them to understand the female mind in politics and the importance a wife has over her husband. Why, often at social occasions, James would ask me to sit at the head of the table, normally reserved for him, so that I might orchestrate conversations to engage all and yet not offend any. James called that my forte, and he loved later, after the guests had left, to comment on what he called my panache. Oh, I adored doing it for him and for his career. I loved him, so much so that I let myself be cast out of the Quaker community for marrying him. But even that in itself opened a whole new world for me. I suddenly felt free and alive, no longer restrained by my strict Quaker upbringing. I set out to create a style and a design for myself. I began wearing turbans, some of them embroidered and some bejeweled, some in silk of rich colors, some with tall feathers that waved in the breeze. Oh, and with my pronounced bosom held high in my dresses, for the man of the species would give me just about anything I wanted. Soon other lady visitors tried to follow suit, trying for my flair and flamboyance. Yet with everything I contributed to my husband's career, he was the one that was able to impress the other men by writing George Washington's concise speeches and astonishing Jefferson in varying degrees of knowledge. Why, there was nothing that he read that he could not remember and later use. Perhaps more than any of them, he contributed the most to our Constitution. I always believed that his body's frailties were because of the amount of exercise his brain was constantly given. At James's inauguration, papers called him a small, wizened man, appearing worn and old. Washington Irving referred to him as withered little Applejohn. Well, whatever his deficiencies in charm and looks, to me, he was a small angel, only 5'4", whose genius makes this country great. Why, his Federalist essays with John Jay and Alexander Hamilton showed his understanding of our American lives. By the time I got to the White House, I was already famous for throwing one hell of a party. Oh, but not with your typical aristocratic fanfare like bowing with dull flatterers. Oh no, not at my parties. At my parties, everyone was to feel comfortable and mingle, drink, laugh, tell jokes. Why, even serious negotiations could happen in the study with Jenny talking of grave issues. Why, Henry Clay once asked, "Why does everyone love Dolley?" His reply from one of the guests was, "Well, because she loves everyone back." And I did. Well, at least that's how I let them feel. It was my own form of diplomacy to show that I could treat both senators and servants alike. And it often worked too. Why, I once got 2 congressmen, John Epps and John Randolph, to call off a duel. A foolish partisan argument. What a silly thing to die for. They left laughing at their own stupidity. Oh. I was quickly associated and denounced as a pacifist Quaker when the War of 1812 broke out. But I discouraged those remarks by showing all the support I could for my husband, and once more I was cheered. But our young country was hardly ready for war. And by 1814, Britain was able to come into Washington and burn down the White House and the Capitol building. A terrible thing, just awful. Rear Admiral Sir George Cockburn of the British Navy had a plan to capture me and take me as his prize and gift to the Queen. Well, he could have done so quite easily, too, as Jemmy had already left with our troops, and I was left all alone in the White House. Except for the servants, of course, but I had received a letter. Telling me to get out while I still could. I raced upstairs as fast as I could, and I watched the fireworks through a spyglass. Oh my! Oh dear! The British, they're coming in here! Oh my! Prepare a meal for their arrival. Yes, I said prepare a meal. Better they eat than me. Oh, what? We must leave here. Oh, Gilbert Stuart's painting of George Washington. We must save it. Someone get a ladder. Hurry, take it down. And take those red velvet curtains right there as well. Hurry, we must leave here now. They're coming. We got out of there just as Cockburn and his men were entering the White House looking for me. Well, the men, they took what they wanted, all right. Always the entertainer, I had that meal prepared, and it was a good thing. Well, rumor has it, Cockburn, unable to have me, settled for one of my seat cushions to remind him of my arse. Well, I do not know if that was story or true, but I do know the burning of the White House insulted every American. And when the war was over, I had a beautiful red velvet dress made from those very curtains, and I wore it with style and grace at all of our events that celebrated our eventual victory. We were finally chased out of Washington, but nothing could stop me and Jenny. Oh no, we would not leave there. We rented a house and once more began entertaining without skipping a beat. The British would know that no one could stop us. And General Andrew Jackson, after a few notable naval and military victories in New Orleans, proved to the American people that the War of 1812 was a huge success. The result was a rise in patriotism. The New England Federalists, who had not wanted to go to war in the first place, were so quickly renounced by the rest of the country that soon federalism disappeared as a national party altogether. And by 1815, we had peace again, with party campaigns organizing relief for orphans of the war. At one of our victory celebrations, where I wore my beautiful red velvet dress, the son of the Secretary of the Navy laid the flag of a captured British ship at my feet, rather than at Jenny's. At first I was rather embarrassed, but Jenny, he loved that he wasn't the center of attention. He was a very unassuming man with a very assuming wife. Parties and soirees continued in our home, and once more I got my snuff tobacco back. Now, I know that most ladies do not have this habit, but alas, I did. And I would carry it around in my adorned, bejeweled snuff boxes, accommodating the men. Would you like some, sir? How about you? Would you like some? Oh, but to remain feminine while doing so, I carried 2 handkerchiefs. One for prep work, and the other from staining my face afterwards. I am sure most husbands do not care for their wives to indulge, but mine had little care about it. This was perhaps one of my mistakes, but I did make others. After the war was over, I threw a party for the new ambassador to show there were no hard feelings after the war. And even though I had been brought up to hate slavery, Jemmy, as a Southerner, had had many slaves. So as his patriotic wife and for the festivities, I planted slaves throughout the house, each holding torches with flames for radiant light. The papers call this a barbarous Egyptian display. Well, we all make mistakes, and I have forgiven myself. After Jemmy's last term was over, we moved to his Virginia estate in Montpelier. We did live there quite happily. But I never gave up my dream of once more living in Washington, the place I love the most. And Jemmy died in 1836. Well, I quickly returned there, and I once more took my place as the entertainment maven of Washington. Well, I even got to send the second Morse code in the new Morse code after Samuel Morse himself. Yet, with the Montpelier estate losing money and my son John Payne's heart, who gambled and spent like flowing water, I soon found myself in a very poor situation. I decided to sell James's papers to Congress, where one might have thought they would have been wanted. Well, of course they wanted them, just not at the price. They were worth $100,000. I had to settle for $30,000. 10 years later, I sold the rest for $25,000. Yet with my gambling and philandering son's reputation, they put that money in a trust fund that only I could use, which was actually a good idea, since I could never say no to that John Payne. Still, that silly boy, he came to Washington and he threatened the trust managers with physical harm. There was no way to explain to that fool he's only making matters worse for me. And in truth, I only had those funds a year or so before I became sick. And I knew I was dying. But up until I became too sick to talk, it had become long accustomed for newly inaugurated presidents to call upon me, and receive my blessings. I cannot complain. I had a good life with 2 loving husbands, and I became known as the woman who entertained a nation.